are providing Reiki, what problem are you looking to solve for the client?
When I work with a client, first I listen with intent. I try to understand where they're at, meet them where they're at, find out some history or maybe what they're going through at that particular time in their life. And from there, I will do an assessment of their body just to understand where the energy might be stagnant. But it's going to depend on like what they're going through. So for instance, somebody might come to me and say, oh, I have a headache. I've had a headache, or I have a sinus headache, or there's congestion. So then I know that I am going to be really focusing on their head. I will work on all the body, but mostly I will focus there so I can get the energy to shift where it needs to be. There might be times where they might disclose that maybe they're going through a lot of stress, or they're thinking about something a lot, and we get into this loop sometimes. We might not see it where something is shifting. Job, less hours, how we're going to pay for this. We start thinking of all these scenarios in our mind, and we're trying to solve them, and then we just get into this loop of figuring it out. How are we going to do this? What's going to happen? Like, we're trying to foresee the future, and I think that a lot of the times that keeps us in this state of like constant like anxiety can come up.
And you're thinking that you are your thoughts, right?
Yes.
Which you're not.
Right.
But you're in that state of stress. So when you are sensing this is going on in someone, because this is outside of my wheelhouse, which is great to have you here, what are you feeling with the energy? And is it like layers are coming off of someone's body that just, in all your years of expertise, because you've been doing this for like 10 years,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
So you told me you can sense and feel smoothness, or maybe it's a depletion of energy in a certain area. And back to that smoothness, like you said, it's like you can feel spikes in the energy that are volatile or unstable. So if like that headache, you could feel that. Like, talk to me about that.
Yeah, so then I'll do an assessment because I am kinesthetic, so I'm able to feel the energy around the body. And a lot of the times it'll show me, like if they're telling me, they just had a loss or whatever, in the family, and there's a lot of grief going on, I can feel there's this density right in the heart chakra area, and it totally makes sense. It's like your heart, you're grieving, and so that's like another way of confirming what the client is going through. And if they're going through like we said, the headache, it could be that there's a lot of like a spike that's happening. It should be something nice and smooth, like if you put your hand in through the air, it should be nice and gliding, or like the water. Think of the water, sure. You're gliding, it should be smooth, but then there's that choppiness when the wind comes through and stuff, and then you're like, oh, there's a disruption in that nice smoothness of what the water should be. It's almost like that. That's the easiest way that I can describe it. Mm-hmm. But it might show me exactly where it's happening. So it could be, this part of the head or this, and maybe we find out that like maybe they had a trauma, or they fell and they forgot about it.
Oh yeah, like it's decades old and it's still there, which I do believe, and I think a lot of the people, when I'm seeing them for like a physical naprapathic treatment, it's from trauma. That I see this all the time. I'm like, have you had a car accident? Yeah, but that was when I was 18, but I got massively rear-ended. I'm like, yeah, I wonder why your spine is a mess. So it's like, that's very physical, but I'm in the camp that accident had an emotion, and the emotional fallout, it's still in the body. So it's like, it's a hybrid of physical and emotion.
Exactly.
Which I think you're getting at.
Yeah, exactly. Because we all go through different things in our life. Every day, we go through something, it could be something happening at home or a job or whatever. And it's the way that we react. If we are someone that is able to just like talk about it, then it's not going to get stored in our body. But if we're someone that doesn't communicate, we might have, for instance, thyroid issues because we're blocking that communication of like expressing of what's going on. You could have digestive issues. So it just depends. That a lot of it starts, in my opinion, from emotions of whatever might have impacted us in the life. Yeah, and then it'll show up in our body.
So so if I'm someone who's trying to understand Reiki, let's say you find that spike, what are you then doing? What are you actually doing with your energy or their energy to calm down that spike?
Yeah. So an easy way to think about this, because it's so hard to explain it sometimes, but say you have a car and the battery, you need a jump. It doesn't start. Mm-hmm. It's you could hear it, but it's not doing anything. So then someone comes in, they give you a jump, and then it starts running. Think of our body that way. We are life energy. Anything that's living has a life force. Mm-hmm. So if we are depleted of that life energy force, we have that headache, it's depleting our whole body. Even though it's here, we're sensing it here. It's our whole body. It's making us fatigued. It's making us tired. It's making us irritable. And then you go for a Reiki session, then with my intention of connecting to that life force, then I am giving you that jump.
Okay, so it's your energy?
Not my energy.
Okay.
I'm like a conduit. It just goes through me. I connect, and I am a conduit with that energy of whatever it is that your body needs, and it's going to give you almost like a jump. That's the easiest way that I can explain it. I am placing my hands in certain places that I'm being guided to shift that energy that might be making your headache or whatever it is stagnant in your body. And at the end, the majority of the times, clients will tell me they feel calm, mm-hmm. they feel balanced, they feel peaceful, they're able to sleep better, their anxiety level has gone down, because a lot of the times too, we're in this fight or flight state. So then if mm-hmm. you're, after a session, you may be like, okay, I feel better, I feel relaxed, I can make a decision of whatever it is that I've been looping thinking about and I haven't been able
You're
to.
You're probably bringing in that parasympathetic nervous system of, okay, let's get back to digesting our food and repairing our cells. And I think we're probably imagining a lot of the problems in our head. Mm-hmm. So you might just be shutting off that kind of gear, so to say. Does that resonate?
And kind of like it's helping you just like move it. Like if we've
process.
Been looping, all right, we're going to process and shift that energy, and then somehow you see clarity.
Yeah, I'm thinking of two things I wanted to comment on that, because I think some people get absolutely stuck, possibly for decades.
Right.
Something has happened. They are a new person for decades, and sadly, it's probably not a good thing. So I think we could talk about that for a half hour or so, and I'm fine going back there. But one thing I wanted to compliment you on and comment as you talked about what you're doing is when you worked on me like last month, I felt obviously calm, but you were just doing some light placement of the hands, and you would move across my body and just kind of stay there. But what I really enjoyed, it somehow felt like a massage, but there was not a lot of kinetic movement. It was more laying of the hands. But I could really feel that you were maybe reconnecting my energy, like you said, maybe bringing in this universal energy, mm-hmm. and it felt great. And I would probably say, I'm guessing you'll agree with me that when I do like my biomagnetic adjustment, I feel like it could almost treat any symptom. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing you're going to say that barring ER visits and all that, a Reiki session could possibly alleviate nearly any symptom if we're finding the right cause or restoring the balance of the body that is then going to do the work to heal that.
Yes.
How do you feel about that statement?
I do agree with that, because it's almost kind of like, what are we doing for self-care? If we're not doing any self-care at all, then our body's going to deplete it. If we're not eating right, if we're not sleeping enough, those are things that we can do, But then additionally, if you go and get an energy session, then you're going to feel like you're getting that energy shift, and you are going to feel better. Then you're going to be able to be more active and keep up with that. Sometimes I tell people it's as easy as just earthing or grounding.
Yeah.
Walk around barefoot.
Yep.
On your wooden floors, backyard. The best thing after work, a really tough day.
Yep.
Just walk around barefoot, and you're going to notice it instantly, and it's free.
Yeah. Or you could take a shower right when you get in, which
Yes.
is something I like to do when I get home.
Yeah.
If I take a shower, that water does something for it. Or, I had a really bad headache last week, which we'll talk about, and I seriously went downstairs in this professional building and grounded under a tree. I didn't care. I took my shoes off and found a tree and just laid there, and it did help. Yeah. So it's like turning the tide of energy. Something I am also in the camp of now is like I used to offer, here's a physical session, here's an energy session. Yeah, but it's all connected.
Yes.
And so I know without a doubt that when people incorporate like an energy session like the Biomagnetic, or I'm so happy that Reiki is now evolved here, because you do energy work like the Biomagnetic, but it's totally different. I think when people start incorporating these energetic therapies, they're going to have the most success. Yeah. That's the reason I do it. Yeah. And because you can no longer separate the two.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think the more that we find modalities that resonate with us, the better we're going to be.
Yep.
And, I know a lot of times people say like, oh, I don't have time or this and that, but sometimes we find ourselves watching Netflix or strolling on our phone or whatever, and so there's got to be a healthy balance of figuring out like, oh yeah, my body's asking for a session, and I get one once a month. I have clients that for 2 or 3 years now they've been coming once a month because they know that it helps them.
I think that's a good frequency, and I started getting regular Reiki sessions just this year, and I feel like I added in to going to see an acupuncturist every month, and I'm just going to add Reiki. And like last week I got hit with kind of my own health crisis, so I had to like dig my heels in, figure it out, and I really helped it a lot with the Biomagnetic, but I'm happy you're here today because I think we're going to just do a quick little work on my headache, because even though I dropped it down a lot, I know it's still there. And I'm a business owner, and I have 2 very young kids, and it is hard to say no to patients and clients. Yeah. But my body, I think, told me last week, it's like, okay, you need to listen to us more and do more self-care. And like I know that. Yeah. I know I needed to do a little more self-care, but it just wasn't happening. Right. Because again, I have 2 young kids and a business. Yeah. So I think everyone out there needs to do some combination of, okay, you got a massage, great, but if you've never gotten Reiki done, you need to have that done. Yeah.
At least try it, because it's one of those modalities that it doesn't have to just stand alone. If you're doing other therapies, I feel like it's going to complement and enhance your healing process, especially if you're going through something. Absolutely. If you just had a surgery, it's going to like reduce the recovery time. Yes. It's going to help amplify, and your body's going to feel better. So I believe,
we do the same thing with Biomagnetic, like surgery. There's trauma to the cells. I really think those cells can actually hold an emotion, and years down the road, then you've got a problem maybe above the surgery site or below it. Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you, like, as I get, starting with Naprapathic, going into Biomagnetic, I'm starting to hear rumblings about quantum healing. Yes. And so now it's made me think about frequency. Yes. And like everything is a frequency, and we are frequency. And like there's this thing, but that's really a frequency. How does that play into the work you're doing?
So again, I feel like it's the energy gets stuck in certain areas. If I do a session and I also put like a certain hertz of music, it's a frequency that's going to enhance the energy to flow better, right?
Yeah.
We're all just connected, and I believe that we're not, we haven't understood that completely, but how we're all really connected and how we're all affecting each other. You know, if we're all going through hearing the same news, we're all going to be in this low vibration. So it's that frequency of like lower vibration, but what are we doing? So we need to raise our vibration, our frequency, to help those around us, and to just shift that energy, because we can all go down or we can all help bring that up.
Right now, and I agree with you, I feel like we're very porous. People might disagree, but like you're absolutely right. The emotions that I can exhibit, you can feel it.
Yes.
And maybe you're a little more empathic, or maybe you've just been doing this work, but I've encountered people where I physically felt their presence or maybe their intent, good or bad, you know. So relaying that back into this thought of what's going on in this world today with all the news and, you know, whatever side you're on politically, we are sadly, I think, being bombarded and maybe even being like tricked with all this news into feeling a certain frequency. Or vibration.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to ask you, and you know, with this modern society of electronics and the news, which we've never seen before. You know, 10 years ago, the news didn't operate this way. 20 years ago, it was unheard of.
Right.
What's your recommendation?
I definitely think we need to unplug. We need to reduce, and maybe depending, I mean, we know ourselves. If we start seeing all of that, we're getting bombarded, we start feeling like anxious, worried, angry, whatever it may be, what's all right, just make a note of it and say like, you know what, I think I'm going to just stop now. And maybe if you still want to watch something, maybe watch like something funny. Yeah. We need more laughter, because I feel like they do want us in this low frequency where I don't know, almost like they're feeding off of that. I know that this is going a little bit further, but
it's fair to say though. Yeah. I think, again, maybe this is too much, but maybe when we're at that low frequency of fear, there's more impressionability. An agenda can be inserted.
Exactly.
Whereas we really are all beautiful, creative beings when we are allowed to be, when we allow ourselves to be.
Right.
You know, there's even, you can buy devices that block these you can buy other devices or apparatuses that can block the other devices that are we need to unplug from, right? Or I've been getting into certain companies can like send high frequency energy to your phone, to your domain. Like that's pretty crazy, but you know what? I think it works.
It works, yeah.
And what I get from it, and you know, I turned one of these services on just yesterday because I was, like I said, I had this bad headache and I needed to feel more optimism. I felt that. I felt time flying in a positive way. I felt optimism. And I think I felt a higher ability to feel gratitude, which I think is like, I feel like that's what's the word I want to use? Gratitude can assassinate the fear that I think we're all getting. It's like, if you can find something to be grateful about, I took this from, there was a Netflix movie I was watching, so I didn't think of this, but gratitude pulls us out of the fear. So like, even if you're like down in the dumps and you're living on a family member's floor and maybe you've got a drug problem, find something, anything you can be grateful about. something. Maybe the sandwich you had earlier today is something you can be like grateful for.
Yeah, I've been doing that when I eat, and when I look at my food, it's not only of me blessing it and giving it some Reiki energy on it, and asking it to supply my cells and my body with the nourishment that it needs, and whatever it doesn't, I say just release it.
I think you're right.
But also being, like you said, gratitude of like, thank you for the person that was in the rice fields. Thank you for the person who picked it. Thank you for the person who, X, Y, and Z. Thank you for this chicken that laid this egg and now I'm eating this egg or whatever it may be. And there's this shift that happens, like just like you said. And it I don't know, it's just this connection with it that I also feel, instead of just like and being on your phone, which it also I've noticed you can't do it, and I feel like it doesn't allow your brain to tell you that you're done
and you've received the nourishment.
Right.
And honestly, luckily I don't keep my phone near me dinner time, but I've got 2 young kids. I'm like eating
fast
to actually just get calories to do work.
Right.
I'm not enjoying it, but I had a great Japanese acupuncturist that was like, you need to sit and enjoy your food and nourish it. And I think you're really correct in that if I think about the food I'm eating, my body will assimilate it better. Who knows? Maybe I'll absorb and it'll be more muscle, less fat. I don't know. Maybe that's possible. I like to be open-minded. But I think you're absolutely right. And we're totally getting into like non-Reiki talk, but this is so great because it is all full circle.
Yeah.
And I think if we start raising our vibration, we're getting that once a month, or I think at minimum once a quarter Reiki session, we're going to be thinking about these things rather than feeling scarce or feeling taken advantage of by the outside world that is less hospitable. And yes, I can dwell on all these fearful subjects and all the concerns I have, but if I shift the prism and I start thinking about the work you do, or just the gratitude for the people that come in the center, like they're amazing, then I've got a different story I'm thinking about.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I started doing sound meditation more recently. I got done with my first session and I started feeling grateful for my gong and the energy, and almost, it sounds weird, but to personify it and the energy of that gong, I'm in a totally different ballpark if I'm like, oh, my software price went up 8% this year, stuff like that.
Yeah.
We can choose what are we focusing on. Mm-hmm. So,
and going back to your sound meditation, because I was here, and it was very interesting. I heard this from one of my mentors recently, which made total sense. And I think you might have brought this up too, where if you go to a sound bath meditation and there's a frequency that might not resonate with you, that frequency might be somewhere in our body where something happened to us that we need, that the energy is stagnant, and we need to allow it. And like you mentioned, just let it work its magic of just letting it go, because the gong, especially for me, I have very sensitive ears, and it was like, that's a sound that might not be something that I would normally gravitate towards, but now having that understanding of like, why is that causing a little bit of irritation, or where in my body, and just being present, I feel like it's going to make a big difference for all of us.
And it's safe. It's safe to explore that. And what you're saying is ringing with me the concept of ringing. I think maybe that frequency is somehow ringing in your body, and maybe it's in your small intestine, which I think so much happens with the small intestine, and I'm just using that as an example, but like maybe there's disharmony in that organ, and that frequency of a gong that has so much size and depth, and there's a lot of character going on that gong, which is why I love that gong. But maybe it's triggering you, it's highlighting, warning you, and maybe it's going to iron out that disharmony in that organ or the system. just like we iron clothes, it takes time. You got to go over that wrinkle a few times. So maybe there's something there with exploring the frequency. And again, I think someone could feel triggered in a sound meditation. I haven't experienced it. I've heard of it. But I think it's also a safe place to be like, something's going on.
Yeah.
Do some work, self-reflection, talk to a therapist, go deeper into it.
And our journal, if you're someone that you're able to sit still and just quiet your mind and maybe just journal, ask the question and see what's arising or what was that, and maybe just listen. Sometimes, we have these outer gifts that, we've forgotten about, and you might hear something, you might sense something, you might all of a sudden feel this pain, like you said, it could be the spleen, it could be here, whatever, and then you're just aware, but it has to be in my opinion, and how it's worked for me is through silence, because I'm really connected with my body, and I'm able to sense, oh, that's interesting, I wrote this down, this is what I was thinking, and then I got the pain in my spleen. So what is that? And then I don't know what it might be, and then I'll go and kind of look at what emotions are stored in the spleen, and maybe then I'll get a connection there. I'm like, let's work on this. Let's figure out what to do about this. Maybe I need some acupuncture. Maybe I need,
It takes a village, and I think when you've got good intent, we're all just exploring this world, this phenomenon. And some people like to have, here's a label, this is this, you have this, here's what you need. But I think I find the most success by being open, and that's what led me here. And I'm tenacious about getting better and just listening. And I don't know exactly where we're going to go with this, but just the sheer journey that we're on to explore. I think something you said was making me just thinking that we're just exploring the world, and we don't know, if you believe in God. I think we're still discovering God's world, and where does an energy therapy sit in with God if you want to go there? I think it can be all harmonious, and I think if you want to see this kind of therapist, cool, go explore it there. Just make sure you are finding someone with good intent and benevolence, what I mean? But I will almost wish I could do it all. I don't have time to learn acupuncture.
I know.
I might learn Reiki one day.
Yeah.
But I love where I'm at, and I love finding good practitioners that I trust. We're all doing this because we have to find something in the world to make a buck on. We have to put food on the table. But once that's taken care of, we have to do it in a benevolent way. And we should be courageous and keep discovering. And I mean, every time I'm successful, those are also times where I'm not. And so that's why I'm like, well, I'm gonna have them go see Edith, because I have some people that done the Naprapathic and the Biomagnetic, and I'm still like, I still want you better. So maybe I'll send you my acupuncturist. I don't care. At the end of the day, I want them to be happy. You know what I mean? Or I'm thrilled you're here, because there are so many people, they might hear about the Biomagnetic, and we kind of touched upon this earlier, they're like, I'm not into that. Cool, I'm not going to push you.
Right.
Because again, I don't want to fight too much disbelief. And what control do I have over this client or this patient that comes see me? There's so much out of my control as a practitioner. And I think I've become more empowered as I've learned that. I'm going to do my best, but really I'm a tool.
Right, exactly.
You schedule your time, you pay me money to see me. Right. I'm going to give you my full, I'm a tool, my full capacity. But if you're rejecting it, there's going to be less success there.
Right.
So the Biomagnetic doesn't speak to you. Cool, fine. Maybe the Reiki would. You know what I mean? Or as we expand people here, we'll find what resonates with other people.
Right.
Because that's, I think, where we succeed the most.
Yeah, and I think the way that I got into Reiki was I was going through a really tough time, an emotional, terrible breakup, and I was distraught, and right away they said, you know, you need to get on antidepressants, which I was like, I don't want that, you know, like, I really want to heal, I just want to talk to someone. And someone told me about this woman. She does Reiki and she uses crystals, and I had never heard of Reiki, and I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I'm willing to try it because I was in such
you were desperate.
I was desperate, you know, I was like an emotional mess. I wasn't sleeping, I was looping, you know, we talked about this looping thing of trying to figure out my role and what happened and trying to solve it, which I couldn't solve it. So then I went to this woman, and what I experienced was amazing. I felt her hands on my feet, and I felt somebody else, like their hands, this energy, these hands on my heart, and I was crying throughout the whole session, crying, just releasing and releasing and releasing so much pain and hurt that I was holding on to, because, you know, society also tells us, you know, you can't, you know, be
stoic.
Yeah, you
don't
can't
display too much
emotion. You're too weak. You can't, you know, show. And I just remember feeling out of that session like, what happened? I was like, I have to figure this out. This is beautiful. And I felt great. And I went back to her a few more times. But that initial session was what sparked. And I said, wow, that looping was not there anymore. I saw clarity. I felt peace in my heart. And I felt like, wow, I'm centered. I can face another day without feeling depressed, you know, anxiety, looping, what it was. And I couldn't sleep before that. And the first time that I was able to sleep.
You felt empowered, and could you imagine, had you not received that therapy, what your life would have been like, and what, sadly, I think a lot of people will do. They're like, yeah, I'm just going to do antidepressants, and if they're lucky enough to have the courage to go do some talk therapy, which is great, but maybe that's all they get, and that's not the full capacity. Like, I think with adding in all these therapies, and as our world is becoming a little bit more open to all these therapies, it's like we're raising the ceiling for potential.
Yes.
Like, and again, I don't mean to like sound like I'm trying to promote Biomagnetic, but I just love it and I'm passionate about it. So I feel like it just raises the potential. If someone incorporates Biomagnetic, and that's the same thing with Reiki, I'll say this about Reiki, if someone incorporates Reiki into their life, into their circle of health that has a slice of pie for everything, whether it's exercise or acupuncture, chiropractic, healthy sex relationship, good nutrition, you know what I mean? Like, if you're missing one of those pieces, your ceiling gets lower. It's just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think I'm just happy. I'm happy you were courageous enough to get that Reiki session, process it, receive it, and you're a different person.
Oh.
And now you're helping people.
Right.
Like, I think I would love to see more people still reeling from trauma go see you.
Yeah.
Like, that would be amazing.
That would be amazing.
You know, we live in this one thing that scares me the most is about all of the school shootings. You know, I have young kids, like I said, for the 5th time. We've got to stop this.
Yeah.
And I think of it as diffusing a bomb in that kid's mind that is going to go do those acts of horror. I would love to somehow, this is really my dream. I would love to see how to get those kids that are being, sadly I'm going to use the word marked or labeled, to identify this troubled kid.
Yeah.
However they do that. I want to see those kids getting Biomagnetic, Reiki, and maybe I'm missing something else, right?
Yeah.
Let's get those troubled kids that have the bomb and the fuse that is dwindling down. Let's get them energetic health. Yeah. In addition to urgent medication, totally fine with that. In addition to talk therapy, great. But something is not addressing these bombs in these kids' head. Yeah. And we're seeing the collateral damage. And we're still, as a society, suffering. So I don't know, maybe I'm inserting a plea for help for our society, truly, because right now I hate it.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest fear on my mind for the society, and where I think this just the dehumanization is going on.
Right.
I see this as the key to what you do and to what I and other Vitalists do Biomagnetic. And again, there's other therapies I'm not talking about.
Yeah.
But there is a lack of energetic health going on in the youth. Yeah. And not just the youth, all generations. Right. We see acts of horror. But I don't know, maybe I'm saying this to someone out there that can hear what you and I are talking about. And this is part of our change. Right. Like, you and I are talking about this work to promote our work, right? It's social media, it's business promotion, right? But at the end of the day, you and I think, are trying to hit a higher echelon hierarchy. Why are we living, you and me, right now? For me, if somehow I can get this message out and stop that horror, that's the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah, especially because you're a parent, so your focus is on your children and how they're going to grow up. And then I want to talk about all these frequencies. We talked about frequencies, but our kids at school, the kids they're on tablets, they're on computers, they're on the Wi-Fi's. It's like, let's imagine what that's happening and doing to the body, to the cell. So wouldn't it be wonderful if we had in the schools a salt room?
Yeah.
Where after all of this, they go in there and they kind of get cleansed of all that's being depleted because they're learning and they're seeing and they're doing all this. But wouldn't it be wonderful? I think of big companies too, corporations, and everybody's just like on this like rat race. We got to do this. We got to do this. And they're like hunched over or whatever it might be, but also like having
the neck at 90 or let's call it 80 degrees neck. I see these kids at. Yeah,
I can imagine back here. You probably see a lot of this, right?
I will in 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see just a little bit. I'll see it in like a 30-year-old.
Yeah.
Be like, whoa, your neck. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Sorry, back to your point of this. I like where you're going.
Just finding these, like big companies, like for instance Google, I hear they have these rooms where they're like, they could be in the couch over there doing whatever it is, or they have these big, wonderful, very relaxed environment for them to work in. But wouldn't it also be great to have these modalities? Okay, I'm going to sign up for a Reiki session at 3:00 because you know what? I've been working on this project for so long.
Talk about productivity.
Exactly. No? So how are we, if they're working long hours, how are they regenerating their cells, their life force, their life energy? So it goes back to kind of like what you were saying about like figuring out what can we do as a society, as someone
we need to do something.
Need to do.
And I think your work can also add to the reduction of reactivity. I'm going to say that because you could calm the mind, the body starts healing, and then that person's spouse that maybe they're not super harmonious right now, or maybe their boss they're not in harmony with, they will stop being reactive to the bad behaviors of that person. And then I'm going to just highlight something I read recently. Like, if I work on myself, somehow you, the other person, react better to me. And so it's a cycle, right? So I think we need to get out of this reactivity that's going on in this world. And I think maybe that's what you're touching on. Like, if we get these salt rooms filled with books and water and no electronics, and there's all these other, EMF mitigation devices that I was kind of highlighting before, people are going to be less reactive. And then we'll see, I hope, less school shootings, less mass shootings. Yeah. Let's heal these people from the inside. Yeah. It is all inside.
Yes.
Yeah. And we see these physical maladies, and sure, sometimes, you get hit by a car and there's an immediate physical reaction to that. Yeah, there's a prolonged emotional reaction. Yeah. But a lot of these physical maladies probably You know, like I just started reading this book by Dr. Sarno, and I think his work really got started. I think in the 80s he started publishing, but he had this idea, and I agree with him. And in fact, I took some of his, just a couple pages, and I think it helped me process the headache I was having the other week. But he's talking about how in medical science he was seeing that people's emotions were triggering these physical maladies down the line. And of course, he was probably getting blowback, and I think it was the 80s again. But again, we're talking full circle here.
Yeah.
Hopefully not ad nauseum, but it's like we're frequency, we're reactive, and something else that's coming to mind is if I feel anxious, I could walk by someone who has anxiety, and I could not even enter into a relationship with them, but their anxiety can trigger my anxiety.
Yes.
I think that's true.
Yeah, it's almost like when you meet someone or they come towards you, and you can sense that they're like invading your space.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you can feel the energy of others. And when you walk into a room, I don't know if you can feel this, but there's been times where I walk in a room and I'm like, wow, the energy in here is so dense, I cannot go in there. Or a store, There's been times like that. Or, you have your nice harmony room setting, and then someone walks in and totally disrupts it.
Yeah, it's our gut instinct. Yeah. There's truth to it. Yeah. I think that's how I hone in on what I think the subconscious wants in a biomagnetic, is I think I'm tapping into their gut instinct. And I think as we get older, it's all about our gut instinct. And we're not perfect. We all make mistakes and we're learning from them. But I think tapping into our gut instinct is better. And I think what's going on in the world, it's severing people from their gut instinct. Yeah. That's just my theory.
Yeah, it's a good
And
point.
The electronics.
Yeah, we're just disconnected, and then desensitized, because we get bombarded with so much stuff that it's like, oh, it's not happening to me, it's not a big deal, but
Well, and that goes back to the grounding, and I remember hearing that some other cultures think our sickness is that we've lost connection with nature.
Yeah.
So we probably lost connection with ourselves. Some people have lost connection with their gut instinct. We've lost connection with our nature. Some people I don't even think are really able to truly develop who they are because they're so connected to these devices. Yeah. And I think you and we don't even know how like a 10 or 15-year-old person processes information, because we grew up sentient before the internet. Like I was 16 when the internet was coming in. Mm-hmm. But I remember talking on a phone and pressing buttons on that phone and remembering phone numbers.
Landlines.
Printing out a map of directions, or God forbid an atlas, right? So that does something different. And I don't want to get into we're good, young kids are bad, because I love my kids. But we've got to help them somehow find some level of health, which I've never thought of this or heard of your idea of the salt room. Yes, we've heard about salt places,
right?
But in a school, that sounds amazing. I've never thought of that idea. I love that idea.
I think about them because of their young, impressionable souls, and how there's got to be something,
We've got a lot of experts around the world, so we need to collaborate more. And luckily, there's all these TED Talks and podcasts are so wonderful, and I love that you're here talking with me. We're just going to keep this collaboration, going on. But I love where this conversation has gone.
I do too.
So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I didn't think we'd get into this big picture stuff. I thought it would be just all Reiki, but thank you for sharing your time and knowledge. And it again makes me think that this is all circular, and it's all about frequency. And I think I just want to make this a call out to anyone with the power to reshape schools, corporations, to add some of these rooms, to add a new level of let's really identify people's true health, physical, energetic, the hybrid, which is I think the truth of it. And let's start all getting healthier and knowing our limits and knowing also when something isn't us.
Yeah.
You know, like that's not really me. That's not my thought.
Something.
I'm not going to be just anxious and angry. Like I love these energetic therapies. I'll make a mistake every day, but I love seeing where I've come from, like who I used to be. Like I'll think of an action I did years ago and I'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Yeah. I'm ashamed of who I was, but it's okay because I've worked on it and I'll continue to work on it. You know, I still have recent memories. I'm like, I'm not happy with myself. But the cool thing is I can see that sooner and I don't scorch the earth the way I have done in the past. And, you know, I just love being honest with myself and the world. I think the more we add these energy therapies, there's going to be less hurt. Yeah. People are going to cause less hurt. They're going to be hurting less, less agony, and they're going to see the firestorm down the road. They're going to stop it. And if they created a fire, they're going to walk back to that fire sooner and stop it. Yeah. And said, I was wrong. Like. Yeah. That's the best thing I love about something like Reiki or Biomagnetic is that if I make a mistake, I apologize sooner. The severity, the frequency, the damage control, it's so much better.
I agree because, you know, it also depends on how we were raised, our environment. Like I came from a family where you didn't really talk about things. You kind of like brushed them all under the rug. But I've gotten to a point where my body just tells me, nope, I will get very emotional. I will just keep thinking about like what happened, the scenario, whatever, and it's exactly what you said. It's either if I did something wrong, I said something, I feel it in my frequency of not feeling balanced. Like I was not right. I'm reflecting on it, and I go back and I apologize and I say, and I will do better. And I'm just very, very aware at the same point, I am doing the same with family members, you know. Yeah. As hard as it is because I didn't grow up with that, but it's like someone has to take the first step and say, you know what you said that day in front of everybody, blah, 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 this how I felt, and it's okay, you know. A lot of the times I feel like, no, I shouldn't say anything, but now my body's like, no, I can't go back to that pattern anymore.
Once you learn authenticity, which I think really hit me in college, I started doing all this existential philosophy in addition to my biology courses. I was like, no, existential philosophy, okay, this is cool. And actually those became some of my most worthwhile courses. Yeah. Once I had a professor where the whole semester all we did was talk about authenticity. So once you open up that Pandora's box of what is integrity and authenticity, you really can't stray from it too much because you know you're lying to yourself. Yeah. And that's the crime. So I think you're speaking to the fact of now you find yourself to be an authentic person, which is great, and which I think we all need to get towards authenticity, all of us. And when you aren't that way, you'll notice it. And then that leads us to our best path forward. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know where I was going with that, but
no, I think we are in a place where we're here learning, growing, experiencing for our soul's growth. You know, I think that. So whether I've had an experience that was so traumatic or whatever, I grew from that. I grew from that experience. And I don't blame that person, you know, because I partook in that experience, but it led me to Reiki. It led me to all these other areas. It led me to understanding myself better, and, you know, and there's so many things out there that I've been exploring and I think a lot of people will hopefully do the same, but at the end of the day, it's like, how are we growing?
Yeah, you have to keep exploring.
Yeah.
Like I think it's unfortunate. There's people that are like, nope, I'm an expert in this. This is how it is. And you didn't fit in my box, so you must be wrong.
Yeah.
Why?
Right.
What's the point in that?
Yeah.
That's not fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like, I feel like I'm just evolving all the time. I'm incorporating my knowledge, my wisdom, phenomenon, and I'm trying to explain it. But for me, that's fun, and I'm trying to just get better. And something I really gathered, I'm bringing my existential philosophy, I think it was Jean-Paul Sartre that says, in fashioning myself, I fashion humanity. So the meaning of that is like, hey, it's not I'm perfect, but the way I live is an example to all others of I think you should live this way. Not that you should be me,
right,
or do exactly everything I do, but if I do something bad, I'm basically giving the okay to anyone else saying it's okay for you to do this. But, you know, what I like to resonate and be on the frequency of other people of is I've found out what works for me. Mm-hmm. These are my working truths. These are my evolving truths. These are my discoveries. How does that resonate with you? Do you like this? Can this help you? Is this fun? Is this creative? And then we go from there, and then more people just join the party. Yeah. And then, like, you enhance my party. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And we don't have to always agree, no, but we can have love for people, and we can allow them to infer upon us their authenticity and their wisdom. Yeah. That's how I think it should be. Like, that's what I mean by, like, we're fashioning this world. And so, like, you and I talking, I think we've hit on some really great things, and I think we're making, again, we're just calling out, like, hey, can someone please help us do this? Yeah. Like, we all want a better world. We can kick and scream or get frightened about it. Yeah. We can. Or we just talk about, like, the good stuff and problem solve, right? Like, but, like, my first question to you, like, what is the problem Reiki solves? Yeah. In your opinion, right? And I loved your answer. But, like, we're just here right now, you and me, like, what can we do? What can we solve? Right. So if you like this video, you know, reach out more. And if it resonates with you, thank you. That's great. And Edith, this was so fun.
This was great.
I didn't even know we were going to go here, but I'm so glad we did. And again, if you're someone of capacity and power to maybe help what we're talking about, thank you. We love you for that. And if this inspires you, that's awesome. Like, I'm just humbled by that. Yeah. Hopefully it inspires other people. And again, thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you.